The number one thing that will kill you in a 90-day blackout isn't violence, it isn't starvation, it isn't dehydration, it's your own toilet. Most preppers have never heard that sentence. Every combat veteran has lived it. Military field sanitation doctrine exists for one reason. Disease from human waste has killed more people in prolonged crises than bullets ever have. That's not opinion. That's operational history across every major conflict and infrastructure collapse on record. There's one item on this list that costs $0, requires no gear, and is the single highest return survival action a veteran would take. Most preppers will never guess what it is. This is the complete 90-day grid-down action plan, built on military sustainment doctrine, not civilian fantasy. 10 priorities in the order a veteran would execute them. This is the plan for people who want to survive, not just feel prepared. Item 1. Latrine plan. Every prepper forum you've ever read talks about ammunition. Guns, tactical vests, plates, night vision. Not one of them talks about where you're going to take a dump on day 14. That's the gap that kills people. Here's the timeline you need to understand. Municipal water pressure fails within 72 hours of a grid-down event. Your toilet requires water pressure to refill the tank. No pressure, no flush. Within 3 days, every toilet in your neighborhood is a sealed porcelain bowl of accumulating human waste. Within 2 weeks, you're looking at dysentery. Dysentery kills through dehydration. You lose fluids faster than you can replace them. In an environment where clean water is already your most critical resource, you're now burning through it at 3 to 5 times your normal rate just trying to stay alive from a disease you gave yourself. Army field sanitation training solves this on day 1. You dig a cat-hole latrine, 12 inches deep, minimum 200 feet from any water source, downhill from your living area and your water procurement point. You cover every deposit with a layer of dirt and a layer of hydrated lime. A 25-pound bag of hydrated lime costs under $15 at any agricultural supply store. That single bag covers a 4-person household for 60 days. $15. 60 days. 4 people. Meanwhile, the family 3 houses down with $10,000 in freeze-dried food and no latrine plan is dealing with a cholera outbreak in their own backyard by week 3. The lime does 3 things. It accelerates decomposition. It kills pathogens on contact. It eliminates odor, which is an operational security concern we'll address later. You need a dedicated shovel. You need a 5-gallon bucket with a snap-on toilet seat lid, which runs about $12. You need the lime. Total cost for your latrine system is under $30. Total cost of ignoring it is your life. That's item 1 on a veteran's list. Not a rifle, not a bunker, a bag of lime and a shovel. Running total, $30. I've put together a complete guide covering everything you need to know about grid-down preparedness, and you'll find it in the first line of the description. Item 2. Water procurement and purification. The military planning factor is 1 gallon per person per day. That's the minimum for drinking, cooking, and basic sanitation. For a family of 4 over 90 days, that's 360 gallons. Go look at your garage right now. Picture 360-gallon jugs sitting on the floor. You don't have room for that. Nobody does. That's why storage is a losing strategy for anything past 2 weeks. You need renewable procurement. The first 72 hours, you buy time with what you have. A water bobby is a 65-gallon bladder that sits inside your bathtub. You fill it the moment you hear the grid is down. Costs about $35. That gives your family 16 days of water from a single fill before you've touched any outside source. After that, you're purifying. The Sawyer mini filter costs $25. It's rated for 100,000 gallons. Let that number land. 100,000 gallons for $25. That's your family's water for 68 years at 1 gallon per person per day. While civilian preppers are buying $200 gravity filter systems that process the same water, you're spending 1/8 the price for a filter that outlasts every crisis scenario you'll ever face. The Sawyer handles bacteria and protozoa. It does not handle viruses. For viruses, you boil. 1 minute at a rolling boil below 6,500 feet elevation. That's the CDC standard. Above 6,500 feet, 3 minutes. You need 2 containers. 1 for dirty water collection. 1 for clean water storage. You never mix them. You label them. You enforce this with everyone in your household because the moment someone dips a dirty cup into your clean water supply, you've contaminated your entire reserve. Here's what most people miss. Water procurement means knowing your sources before the crisis. You identify every pond, creek, river, pool, and rainwater collection point within a 2-mile radius of your home. You do this now. You mark them on a paper map. When you need water on day 20, you're not wandering around hoping to find some. You're walking a known route to a known source. Running total: $90. Item 3. Caloric baseline with bulk staples. The prepper industry wants to sell you freeze-dried meal kits, $300 to $500 per person per month. For a family of 4 over 90 days, that's $3,600 to $6,000 just on food. That's financial insanity. A 50-pound bag of white rice costs about $20. 1 bag contains roughly 72,000 calories. That's enough to sustain 1 adult for 36 days at 2,000 calories per day. 3 bags cover 1 person for the entire 90-day window. 12 bags cover your family of 4. $240. Compare that to the minimum $3,600 for freeze-dried alternatives. You're getting the same caloric coverage at roughly 7% of the cost. White rice stores for 25 to 30 years in a sealed container with oxygen absorbers. Freeze-dried meals claim the same shelf life but cost 14 times more per calorie. Rice is also the most versatile base food you can stockpile. Boiled plain, it sustains life. Mixed with any protein source, it becomes a complete meal. Ground into flour, it becomes flatbread. Fermented with water, it becomes a caloric beverage. That's 4 functions from a single staple. Now add beans. A 50-pound bag of pinto beans costs about $25. Beans provide the protein and fiber that rice lacks. Together, rice and beans form a complete protein. That's a nutritional profile that has sustained military forces, prison populations, and disaster survivors across centuries. Your full caloric stockpile is 12 bags of rice and 6 bags of beans. That's about $365 for 90 days for 4 people. Add $20 for a bulk container of honey. Honey serves as a caloric supplement, a wound treatment agent, and a trade commodity. It never spoils. Archaeologists have found edible honey in 3,000-year-old Egyptian tombs. 1 item. 3 functions. Indefinite shelf life. While someone else is spending $6,000 on branded survival food with a marketing budget baked into the price, you've covered the same window for under $400 with superior storage life. Running total: $490. Item 4. Neighborhood Watch Network. This is the $0 item. This is what I teased at the beginning. And this is the one thing on this list that most preppers will resist the hardest. Military doctrine is absolute on this point. No fixed position is defensible by a single individual. You cannot stay awake for 90 days. You cannot watch every angle of approach to your home simultaneously. You cannot gather water, prepare food, maintain sanitation, and provide security at the same time. The lone wolf fantasy is a death sentence on a long enough timeline. The minimum viable survival unit is 4 adults. That gives you a 24-hour watch rotation with 6-hour shifts. Everyone sleeps. Everyone eats. Everyone stays functional. You need your neighbors. Specifically, you need 4 to 6 households within walking distance who have agreed, before any crisis, to cooperate. This means shared watch schedules, shared water procurement routes, shared medical knowledge, pooled resources where overlap exists. Here's why this appears on no prepper shopping list. You can't buy it. There's no Amazon link. There's no affiliate code. No one makes a commission telling you to go knock on your neighbor's door and have an uncomfortable conversation about emergency cooperation. But that conversation is worth more than every piece of gear on this list combined. Every documented urban survival scenario confirms this. The Sarajevo siege lasted nearly 4 years. Survivors consistently reported that community cooperation was the single greatest predictor of survival. Not supplies, not weapons, not fitness. Community. You start this now, not during the crisis. You identify the households. You have the conversation. You establish basic agreements. You exchange skills inventories. One neighbor is a nurse. One has a generator. One has a water source on their property. One has military or law enforcement experience. You don't need everyone to be a prepper. You need everyone to be willing. Running total, still $490. Item 5. Medications and the 90-day medical bridge. Tactical combat casualty care training teaches a hierarchy that surprises most civilians. The leading preventable killer in austere environments isn't hemorrhage from traumatic wounds, it's infection. Specifically, it's gastrointestinal illness leading to dehydration. Every prepper medical kit you see online centers on trauma. Tourniquets, hemostatic gauze, chest seals, suture kits. Those are important. They're not the priority. The priority is keeping people alive through the mundane medical emergencies that infrastructure collapse creates. Diarrheal illness kills faster than most gunshot wounds in a grid-down scenario. Puerto Rico after Hurricane Maria proved this at scale. Approximately 2,975 excess deaths occurred. The majority were driven not by the storm itself, but by the loss of medical services and clean water infrastructure in the weeks and months that followed. Your medical bridge starts with oral rehydration salts. A box of 20 packets costs about $12. Each packet mixed with 1 liter of clean water replaces the exact electrolyte balance that diarrheal illness strips from your body. This is the single most effective medical intervention in disaster medicine. Not antibiotics, not surgical tools. Salt, sugar, and water in the correct ratio. Beyond oral rehydration, you stockpile a 90-day supply of every prescription medication in your household. Talk to your doctor now. Most will write a 90-day prescription if you explain you want a backup supply. You add ibuprofen in bulk. Diphenhydramine for allergic reactions, loperamide for diarrhea control, triple antibiotic ointment for wound care, antifungal cream, all of it over the counter, all of it under $50 combined. While the prepper forums are debating which tactical trauma kit to buy for $200, you're spending $50 on the medications that will actually save lives in. A 90-day blackout. The trauma kit addresses what might happen. The medical bridge addresses what will happen. Running total, $540. Item 6. Fuel discipline. Most people think about fuel the wrong way. They think about having enough. Veterans think about using less. A standard portable generator at half load burns through 12 to 18 gallons of fuel per day. At current gas prices, that's roughly $40 to $65 a day. Over 90 days, that's $3,600 to $5,850 in fuel alone, and that assumes fuel is available, which it won't be past week 2. Continuous generator operation is a fantasy. Military fuel discipline means you run your generator 2 to 4 hours per day maximum. You use those hours to charge batteries, power medical devices if needed, and refrigerate medications that require cold storage. Everything else adapts. You cook on a camp stove or rocket stove that burns wood. You light your home with battery lanterns charged during the generator window. You accept that electricity is a luxury resource to be rationed, not an entitlement to be maintained. The 50% tank rule becomes your standing habit starting today. Your vehicle never drops below half a tank, ever. When it hits half, you fill it. This means you always have a minimum fuel reserve without any special effort. The day the grid goes down, you already have fuel. You're not sitting in a gas station line with every other panicked driver while pumps that require electricity to operate are going dead one by one. You also need to know how to siphon. A simple hand pump siphon costs $8. In a prolonged grid-down event, abandoned vehicles become the largest fuel reserve in your area. You don't need to stockpile 500 gallons. You need the discipline to conserve and the tools to procure. Running total: $548. Pay attention to this one. Item 7. Hand crank radio. This is where the plan shifts. Everything before this has been about accumulating supplies. Everything after this is about operational capability. Your cell phone is useless in a grid-down event. Cell towers run on battery backup. That backup lasts 4 to 8 hours. After that, every tower in your area goes dark. No calls, no texts, no internet, no information. You are blind. A hand crank radio costs $30 to $60. It receives AM, FM, and NOAA weather band frequencies. NOAA transmitters are hardened government installations with independent power. They will be broadcasting long after every commercial station has gone silent. $30 gives you indefinite access to emergency information with zero grid dependency. No batteries to stockpile, no power source required. You crank it for 60 seconds, you get 30 to 60 minutes of reception. Here's the shift most people miss. Information is a survival resource. Knowing a relief convoy is arriving at a specific location on a specific day changes every decision you make. Knowing a boil water advisory has been issued for your county changes your purification protocol. Knowing a mandatory evacuation order has been issued changes your entire plan. Without a radio, you're making every decision based on rumor, assumption, and anxiety. With a radio, you're making decisions based on data. The military never operates without communications. That's not a preference. That's doctrine, because the unit that loses situational awareness is the unit that takes casualties from threats it never saw coming. You need a radio, not a nice-to-have, not an optional extra, a $30 tool that connects you to every emergency broadcast in your region for as long as you can turn a crank. Running total: $598. Item 8. Blackout discipline. Here's where most preppers create their own worst problem. You've spent weeks preparing. The grid goes down. Night falls, and you fire up your generator, turn on your lights, and announce to every person within a quarter mile that your house has power, fuel, and resources. During the Sarajevo siege, survivors documented that any visible sign of resources drew two types of visitors: desperate people begging for help, and organized groups who weren't asking. Light and noise discipline after dark isn't paranoia. It's operational security straight from deployment doctrine. Your windows get covered. Black trash bags and duct tape. Under $10. No light escapes your home after sundown. Your generator runs during daylight hours only. At night, you use battery-powered lanterns on the lowest setting, positioned away from windows. No cooking fires after dark. No loud conversations outside. No music. No television, obviously. You reduce your home's signature to match every other dark house on your street. The goal is simple. You are not a target if nobody knows you have anything worth taking. This costs almost nothing. It requires no gear beyond what's already in your kitchen drawer. But it requires discipline. And discipline is the one supply that no amount of money can stockpile for you. The prepper with a $20,000 setup and no light discipline will lose everything to the family who spots his lit windows on night 4. The prepper with a $500 setup and strict blackout protocols will still have everything on day 90. Running total, $608. Item 9. Printed map and pace route plan. Your phone's GPS requires satellites and a charged battery. Your phone's map application requires a data connection. Both fail in a grid-down scenario. And here's the uncomfortable truth. Most people under 40 have never navigated with a paper map. A DeLorme atlas for your state costs $20 to $25. It shows every road, trail, waterway, and topographic feature at a level of detail that no phone app matches. You buy one. You study it now, not during the crisis. Now, military planning uses the PACE framework: primary, alternate, contingency, emergency. 4 routes to every critical destination. Your primary route is the most direct. Your alternate avoids the single most likely obstruction. Your contingency uses secondary roads and avoids population centers entirely. Your emergency route is on foot, cross-country, using terrain features for navigation. You plan PACE routes to 3 destinations: your primary bug-out location, your nearest identified water source, your nearest medical facility or aid station. You mark these routes on your atlas with a pencil. You mark distance, estimated travel time by car, and estimated travel time on foot. You mark fuel requirements for vehicle routes. You keep this atlas in your vehicle at all times. On the day GPS goes dark, you're not guessing which road goes where. You're executing a plan you've already rehearsed mentally a dozen times. The $20 atlas replaces your $600 smartphone's navigation capability with 0 battery dependency and 0 signal requirement. Running total, $633. Item 10. Comprehensive hygiene kit. We end where we started. The unsexy stuff. The stuff that no one puts in a YouTube thumbnail because it doesn't look tactical. And the stuff that will produce more casualties than every firearm-related incident in a 90-day blackout combined. Baby wipes. $30 buys a case that lasts one person 90 days. When your water supply is rationed to 1 gallon per person per day, you're not showering. Baby wipes are your shower. They prevent skin breakdown. They prevent bacterial buildup in skin folds. They prevent the rashes that become open wounds, that become infections, that become life-threatening in an environment without antibiotics. Antifungal powder. In sustained operations in warm and humid environments, the documented fungal infection rate runs at approximately 25%. 1 in 4 people develops a fungal infection that degrades their mobility, their comfort, and their ability to perform basic survival tasks. Antifungal powder costs about $8 and prevents a problem that can render a person non-functional. Add hand sanitizer in bulk. Add a toothbrush and baking soda for dental hygiene, because a dental abscess without access to a dentist can kill you. Add sunscreen if you're going to be outdoors on water procurement runs. Add insect repellent, because mosquito-borne illness doesn't pause for grid failures. Your complete hygiene kit comes in under $50 per person. It addresses the threat category that military medical doctrine identifies as the primary casualty producer in prolonged field operations. Not combat. Not trauma. Disease from inadequate hygiene. Every item in this kit prevents a specific medical condition that you will not be able to treat once it develops. That's the entire kit. Running total, $683. $683 and a few conversations with your neighbors. That's a 90-day grid-down survival plan built on military sustainment doctrine. Not $10,000 in branded gear. Not a bunker. Not a fantasy. A working plan you can execute this week. If you want to go deeper on grid-down preparedness, I've written up everything I know and you'll find it in the description. The question I want you to answer in the comments is this: which item on this list did you already have covered, and which one had you never considered?